It started out like any other quiet afternoon in our small, somewhat cluttered house. The sun was streaming in through the windows, casting warm light onto the living room where my foster son Liam was playing. He had been with us for almost a year now, a bright, sensitive boy carrying with him a history I could only guess at, but was determined to help rewrite. That day, Liam was sitting cross-legged on the worn-out carpet, deeply focused on something in his hands. I was in the kitchen washing dishes and listening to the soft sound of his laughter drifting through the air. It was a sound I hadn't heard often enough since he'd arrived, a sign that maybe he was finally feeling safe here. Curious, I walked over quietly, not wanting to disturb his concentration. When I looked down, my breath caught in my throat. He was holding an old, battered music box, one I hadn't seen before. It was delicate, its paint chipped in places, but it seemed to hold a magic all its own. "Where did you get that?" I asked softly. He looked up, eyes wide with surprise but also a kind of guarded trust. "Found it in the attic," he said. "It's been here a long time." I nodded, kneeling down beside him. The music box was intricately carved, and when Liam wound it up, a gentle melody filled the room. I sat there watching him play, feeling a strange mixture of emotions, warmth, sadness, and a flicker of unease I couldn't quite place. The melody reminded me of something from my past, though I couldn't put my finger on what exactly. It was familiar and foreign all at once, like a memory slipping through my grasp. 4 days after that, I found myself thinking about that moment. Liam's joy was genuine, but the music box seemed to carry a weight beyond its size, a story I felt drawn to uncover. Our household was far from perfect. Raising a foster child brought challenges I hadn't anticipated, moments of frustration, confusion, and silent questions about the past. But there was also a deep desire to provide love and stability, to give Liam the chance at a childhood he deserved. One evening as we sat down for dinner, Liam suddenly grew quiet. His usual chatter faded, replaced by a stillness that made my heart tighten. I looked across the table at him, noticing the way his fingers fidgeted with the edge of his napkin. "Is something wrong?" I asked gently. He hesitated, then finally spoke. "I miss her," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. My chest ached at the words. I knew who he meant, his birth mother. A woman who had struggled with her own demons, whose absence left a void Liam carried every day. "I know," I said softly, reaching across the table to squeeze his hand. "I miss her too in my own way." That night, after Liam went to bed, I sat alone in the living room, turning over memories and feelings. It wasn't just about him or the music box. It was about all the pieces of our lives tangled together. The past and present, love and loss, hope and fear. The next day, Liam asked if we could go to the attic together. He wanted to find more things, pieces of history that might explain the silence in his heart. We climbed the creaky stairs, the air thick with dust and forgotten time. As we rummaged through boxes and old furniture, I caught glimpses of the boy he was before the pain, before the distance. It was a bittersweet discovery, finding remnants of a childhood interrupted. Among the scattered memories, Liam pulled out a faded photo album. We sat down on the floor, flipping through pages filled with faces I didn't recognize, moments frozen in time. He pointed to a picture of a younger version of himself, smiling beside a woman I assumed was his mother. "She used to sing to me," he said quietly. I smiled, feeling the fragile thread of connection strengthen between us. "Maybe one day you can teach me her songs." Days turned into weeks, and with every shared moment, Liam and I built something new. A bond woven from patience, understanding, and the unspoken promise to heal together. But beneath the surface, I sensed there was more, secrets waiting to be uncovered, truths that might challenge everything we thought we knew. One afternoon, while Liam was at school, I found myself drawn again to the music box. I wound it up and let the melody fill the quiet house. This time, I listened carefully, letting the notes wash over me. Then, tucked beneath the wooden base, I discovered a small folded note. My hands trembled as I unfolded it, revealing a short message written in faded ink. "For when you need to remember who you really are." My heart pounded. What did it mean? Who had left it there? And how was it connected to Liam's past? I knew I had to find out. When Liam came home that day, I sat him down gently. "There's something I found," I said, showing him the note. His eyes widened, and for the first time in a long while, I saw a spark of hope. "We'll figure it out," I promised him. "Together." As the days went on, I realized that our story was just beginning. The music box, the attic, the note, all pieces of a puzzle waiting to be solved. And through it all, I was learning what it truly meant to be family, not just by blood but by the bonds we choose to create. After that day, everything seemed a little different between Liam and me. There was an unspoken understanding, a quiet agreement that we were in this together no matter what the past held. I could see it in his eyes, a mix of curiosity and cautious hope, as if the small note had unlocked a door he'd kept closed for too long. That evening after dinner, Liam asked if I could help him go through some of the other boxes in the attic. "Maybe there's more notes or things like that," he said, eyes bright with anticipation. I agreed without hesitation. I wanted to be the one who helped him find answers, to help him hold on to the pieces of his history that still mattered. We climbed the stairs slowly, the wooden steps creaking under our weight. The attic was a small, dusty space cluttered with forgotten belongings. Old furniture, trunks filled with clothes, stacks of newspapers, and cardboard boxes sealed with brittle tape. The air smelled of aged paper and a faint scent of lavender, like a memory trapped in time. We started with a box near the far wall, its lid taped shut but fragile. Liam carefully peeled the tape away and opened it. Inside were stacks of letters tied with a faded ribbon, a few worn toys, and more photos. He pulled out a letter and handed it to me. I unfolded it gently. The handwriting was elegant, but the paper yellowed with age. The words spoke of longing and regret, love and loss, emotions that seemed too deep for the fragile paper they were written on. Liam looked over my shoulder, reading along. "It's from her," he whispered. "Mom." I swallowed hard. The letters revealed pieces of a story I had only glimpsed before. A story of a mother caught in her own struggles, trying to hold on to her son while fighting battles we could barely imagine. Each letter was a window into her world, full of hope but also pain. We spent hours going through the box, reading the letters and piecing together the fragments of her life. Liam's hands trembled slightly as he held each letter, as if the fragile pages connected him to a part of himself he hadn't known existed. When we finally closed the box, it was late. Liam looked tired but strangely peaceful. "Thank you," he said quietly. "I've never seen these before." I hugged him close. "You deserve to know, Liam. You deserve to hold on to all parts of your story." The next days were a blur of discovery. Liam and I found more boxes, more letters, and more memories tucked away in the attic. Each discovery brought new questions but also new strength. We talked more openly than ever before, sharing stories and feelings that had long been buried. One afternoon, Liam found an old journal beneath a pile of blankets. The cover was cracked, the pages filled with neat handwriting. It belonged to his mother, and as he read aloud, her voice seemed to echo in the room. Her hopes, her fears, and her dreams for a future that never came to be. I listened silently, amazed at her strength and vulnerability. It made me realize how much pain and love could live side by side in one person. And how much Liam had inherited from her, not just in blood but in spirit. As the days passed, I noticed subtle changes in Liam. He smiled more, spoke more freely, and sometimes even laughed. Moments I hadn't seen in a long time. It was like he was reclaiming parts of himself lost in the past. But with every step forward, there were moments of hesitation, shadows of doubt. Some days he would retreat into silence, his eyes distant, as if wrestling with invisible battles. One evening after dinner, Liam surprised me by asking if I would massage his shoulders. "My muscles have been tight," he said, looking uncomfortable but trusting. I hesitated for a moment but then nodded. It was a simple gesture, a way to show him I cared, to ease some of the tension I saw in him. As I rubbed his shoulders, I felt his hands tremble slightly. His body was tense, but he didn't pull away. Instead, he closed his eyes and let out a slow breath, relaxing little by little. "Take it easy, Liam," I whispered gently, not wanting to break the fragile peace between us. He opened his eyes, meeting mine with a vulnerability that caught me off guard. "It's just hard sometimes," he admitted. "Remembering things, feeling things I don't understand." I nodded. "I know. But you don't have to face it alone. We're in this together." That night, as Liam slept, I stayed awake, thinking about everything we had uncovered. The past was heavy, but it was also a foundation, something we could build on, not be crushed by. I realized that healing wasn't linear. It was messy and slow, filled with moments of light and darkness. And through it all, the bond between us was growing stronger, built on trust and patience. Over the next weeks, Liam and I continued to explore his past, but also to focus on the present, on creating new memories, finding joy in small moments, and learning to be a family. One afternoon, while organizing some old photo albums, Liam asked if I could tell him about my life before he came to us. I smiled, realizing how far we had come. We sat together on the couch, flipping through pictures and stories, sharing laughter and tears. It was a reminder that family wasn't just about blood. It was about the love and care we chose to give. And while the journey ahead was still uncertain, I knew one thing for sure. Liam and I were walking it together, hand in hand, ready to face whatever came next. The days following our time in the attic felt lighter somehow. Liam and I were growing closer, not just as guardian and foster son but as two people healing together. There was a new rhythm in our home, a quiet comfort born from shared secrets and the courage to face the past. One morning, Liam woke early. I found him in the kitchen, staring out the window with a thoughtful look. He didn't notice me at first, so I stood quietly, waiting for him to speak. "I've been thinking," he said after a long pause, "about everything we found, about Mom and how much I didn't know." I nodded, pouring coffee into 2 mugs. "It's a lot to take in, but you're handling it with so much strength." He smiled faintly but didn't look away from the window. "Sometimes I feel like I'm carrying more than I can handle." "Do you want to talk about it?" I asked gently. He hesitated, then nodded. "I think I'm scared of forgetting her, or maybe scared of remembering the wrong things." I moved closer, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Memories can be tricky. Sometimes they hurt, sometimes they heal. But they're yours. And I'm here to help you carry them." That day we made a plan. We would create a memory box together, filling it with letters, photos, and small things that reminded Liam of his mom and the life she wanted for him. It was a way to honor her, but also to help Liam find peace. As we worked on the box, Liam opened up about his fears, of losing himself, of never feeling whole. I listened without judgment, knowing that trust was fragile and needed care. In the following weeks, I noticed subtle changes in him. He was more open, more willing to share not just about the past but about his hopes for the future. We talked about school, friends, even the little things that made him happy. One evening after dinner, Liam surprised me by asking if I wanted to watch a movie with him. It was a simple invitation, but it felt like a milestone, a sign that he was ready to embrace the present, not just dwell on the past. We sat close on the couch, sharing popcorn and laughter, the warmth between us growing. It was a reminder that healing wasn't just about the hard moments. It was also about finding joy in the everyday. But even as we moved forward, there were still times when the past pressed in. One afternoon, Liam found an old necklace in one of the boxes, a small silver heart on a delicate chain. He held it carefully, turning it over in his hands. "Mom used to wear this," he said softly. I watched him, feeling a mix of sadness and hope. "Do you want to keep it?" He nodded, fastening it around his neck. "It feels like she's still here in a way." That night, Liam came to me before bed. "Can you tell me more about her? About what she was like?" I smiled, touched by his need to connect. "She was strong even when things were hard. She loved you so much, more than words can say." We talked for a long time, sharing stories and memories, building a bridge between past and present. As days turned into weeks, our bond deepened. Liam began to trust not just me but himself. He started to believe that he could create a future where his past didn't define him but supported him. One afternoon, while we were organizing the garden, Liam stopped and looked at me. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for everything." I smiled, feeling tears prick my eyes. "You're welcome, Liam. I'm proud of you." That night, as I watched him sleep, I realized how far we had come. The journey was far from over, but we were no longer lost. Together, we were finding our way home. The next few days passed quietly, but beneath the calm surface, things were shifting between Liam and me. It was like we were both moving through an invisible fog, feeling our way toward something neither of us could quite name yet. I saw the changes in his eyes, a mix of uncertainty and hope, and it reminded me how fragile healing really is. One morning, I woke to find Liam already up and sitting at the kitchen table, scribbling in a notebook. The soft scratch of his pen was the only sound in the house. I stood in the doorway for a moment, watching him concentrate so hard. "Morning," I said softly, not wanting to startle him. He looked up, a bit surprised but pleased to see me. Hey, what are you writing? I asked, pouring us both coffee. He hesitated, then held the notebook out. Just some thoughts, things I'm trying to make sense of. I flipped through the pages. There were bits of poetry, some scattered sentences, even a drawing of a tree with roots stretching deep into the ground. This is really good, I told him, genuinely impressed. You've got a way with words. He shrugged, but there was a faint smile. It helps to get it out. I nodded. Sometimes writing can be like talking without having to say anything out loud. That afternoon, Liam and I went for a walk in the nearby park. The air was crisp and the leaves crunched underfoot. We moved slowly, side by side, neither rushing to fill the silence. He stopped near a bench and sat down, patting the spot beside him. I joined him, looking out over the small pond where ducks glided peacefully. I've been thinking a lot about family, Liam said after a while. About what it really means. I was silent, giving him space. To me, family used to just mean the people you're related to, he continued. But now, I'm not so sure. I think it's about who's there when it counts. Who shows up. I smiled, touched by his insight. You're right. Family isn't just blood. It's also the people who choose to stay. He nodded slowly. I'm glad you're here. We sat for a moment longer, watching the water ripple with the wind. Back at home, Liam's new habit of writing had started to change the atmosphere. He wasn't the same withdrawn boy I'd met weeks ago. He talked more, laughed more, and even asked about the things that made me happy. One evening, as we shared dinner, Liam looked up and asked, "What's something you wish you could tell your younger self?" I thought for a moment. That it's okay to ask for help. That you don't have to carry everything alone. He considered that, then smiled. I think I'm learning that too. The night grew late, but neither of us seemed ready to end the day. We moved to the living room where I pulled out an old photo album. Liam's eyes brightened at the sight. Let's look, he said eagerly. Page by page we revisited moments frozen in time. Birthdays, holidays, simple afternoons in the yard. Each photo sparked a memory, a story, a laugh. It was in those moments that I realized how much had been lost in the silence, and how much could still be found in connection. But beneath the lightness I sensed a tension still lingering. Liam was still carrying pain, and I was learning that healing isn't linear. It's messy and slow. One night, Liam came to my room, his expression serious. "Can I talk to you?" "Of course," I said, patting the bed. He sat down beside me, twisting his hands nervously. "I'm scared. Not just about Mom, but about what comes next. About whether I can really move on." I reached out, squeezing his shoulder gently. "It's okay to be scared. Moving on doesn't mean forgetting. It means making peace with what happened and choosing to live." He looked at me, eyes shining. "How do you do that? How do you stop feeling broken?" I took a deep breath. "I don't think you ever stop feeling broken. But you learn to live with the cracks, and sometimes those cracks let the light in." He smiled, a fragile, hopeful smile. "I want to believe that." We talked for hours that night, sharing fears and hopes. It was one of those rare, quiet moments where everything felt possible. The next morning brought a fresh kind of energy. Liam was eager to help around the house, even suggesting we cook together. It felt like a new chapter, one filled with small acts of normalcy that stitched our lives back together. As we worked side by side in the kitchen, I realized that the story of us wasn't just about loss or pain. It was about resilience, about finding family in unexpected places, and about learning to trust again. And even though the road ahead was uncertain, I knew we would face it together. The days following that night felt lighter somehow, as if the weight between us had lifted just enough to breathe more easily. Liam seemed different, more open, less guarded. And I, too, found myself softening in ways I hadn't expected. It was a Saturday morning when the change became impossible to ignore. The sun streamed in through the curtains, casting warm golden stripes across the floor. Liam was already in the kitchen, flipping pancakes with a concentration that made me smile. "You're really getting good at this," I said, leaning against the doorway. He glanced up, cheeks pink from the heat of the stove. "Thanks. Mom taught me a few tricks." "That explains a lot," I laughed softly. We ate breakfast together in comfortable silence, the clink of forks and the occasional murmur filling the space. For the first time in weeks, it felt like we were just two people sharing a morning, not a foster mom and a boy trying to heal. Later that afternoon, Liam asked if he could borrow my camera. "I want to take some pictures," he said. "Sure," I replied, intrigued. He took it outside and began capturing the world around him. The garden's blooming flowers, the way light played through the trees, even the worn-out garden gnome perched by the fence. When he came back inside, he showed me the shots. "What do you think?" "They're beautiful," I said honestly. "You have a good eye." He shrugged, but I saw the pride in his smile. It was the first time I'd seen Liam take something broken and make it into something new. That evening, as we settled in to watch a movie, Liam's phone buzzed. He glanced at it briefly, then frowned. "Is everything okay?" I asked. He hesitated, then said, "It's Mom. She wants to talk." My heart sank. We'd been trying to keep our distance from the past for Liam's sake, but sometimes the past refused to stay buried. "Do you want to call her?" I asked gently. He nodded, and soon the two of them were on the phone, voices low and tense. When he hung up, Liam looked tired. "She wants me to come visit." I held my breath. This was a crossroads, a test of how far we'd come, and how much more work lay ahead. "I'm not sure," he admitted. "Part of me wants to, but I don't know if I'm ready." "I understand," I said softly. "You don't have to decide right away." That night, I lay awake thinking about Liam's struggle, how the pull of his past and the hope for his future were tangled in ways that weren't easy to unravel. The next morning, Liam surprised me by saying he'd like to visit his mother, but only for a short time, just to see if it felt right. We prepared together, making sure he had everything he needed. As he left the house, I watched him go, wishing I could shield him from the pain but knowing he had to face it himself. Days passed without much word, and I tried to focus on normal life. But the silence stretched heavy. When Liam finally returned, I was waiting on the porch. "How was it?" I asked. He took a deep breath. "Hard. But I needed to see her." We talked long into the night about what he'd experienced. The apologies, the promises, the disappointments. It was raw and honest, and I could see the exhaustion etched into his features. "You're stronger than you think," I told him. "Just by going, you took a big step." He nodded but didn't say much else. As the weeks went on, Liam's visits with his mother became a routine, each one leaving him a little more tired but also a little more sure of himself. It was a slow, painful process, but it was progress. At home, our bond grew deeper. We shared more meals, more stories, more quiet moments that didn't need words. One afternoon, Liam asked if I'd help him make a scrapbook, a way to hold on to the good memories while acknowledging the hard ones. Together, we sorted through old photos and keepsakes, laughing over forgotten moments and sometimes falling silent when the memories cut too close. It was a healing project, and I was honored to be part of it. But healing didn't mean forgetting boundaries. There were times when Liam would pull away, overwhelmed by feelings he couldn't yet face. I learned to give him space while reminding him he wasn't alone. One night, as we sat by the fire, Liam looked at me and said, "Thank you for staying." I felt a lump in my throat. I'm not going anywhere. The road ahead was still uncertain. There were challenges, setbacks, days filled with doubt. But through it all, we were building something new. A family not defined by blood but by love, patience, and the courage to face the past and embrace the future. And in that, I found hope. The weeks after that night brought a quiet rhythm to our lives, one built on small victories and slow healing. Liam and I had settled into a fragile peace, a new kind of understanding that didn't need words all the time but was there in glances, in shared spaces, in the comfort of simply being. One chilly afternoon, Liam asked if I would join him for a walk. It was the first time in a long while he'd invited me somewhere like that. Not out of obligation but because he wanted company. I agreed without hesitation. We strolled through the neighborhood, the crunch of leaves beneath our feet and the crisp air filling our lungs. For a while we walked without speaking, letting the quiet stretch between us. Then out of nowhere, Liam stopped and looked at me, eyes steady but vulnerable. "I've been thinking a lot about what family means," he said slowly. "About how it's not just about who you're born to, but who chooses to stay." I smiled, my heart tightening. "I think you're right." He paused, searching for the words. "I guess I'm still scared sometimes. That things will change or that I'm not really part of this." I reached out and squeezed his shoulder gently. "You are. More than you know." It was a moment of honesty neither of us had dared to say before, and it shifted something between us. The invisible wall that had separated our worlds began to crumble. Back at home, we started talking more openly, about fears, hopes, and what the future might hold. Liam shared stories about his childhood, his dreams, the things he missed and the things he wanted to leave behind. I listened, learning more about the boy behind the guarded exterior. It was humbling to see his strength and resilience, to witness his growth firsthand. One evening, as we prepared dinner together, Liam surprised me by taking the lead, chopping vegetables, stirring the sauce, humming softly. I watched him, a warmth spreading through me. "This feels different," he said, glancing my way. "Like I'm finally home." "Home isn't just a place," I replied. "It's where you feel safe to be yourself." The days stretched into months, each one bringing new challenges but also new joys. Liam's visits with his mother continued, sometimes difficult, sometimes hopeful. We navigated those moments with patience, knowing healing isn't linear. At school, Liam found his footing, making friends and joining clubs. I saw him laugh more, relax more, becoming the person he was meant to be. And though the past still cast shadows, it no longer defined us. One night, as we sat on the porch watching the stars, Liam turned to me and said, "Thank you for believing in me. For not giving up." I looked at him, pride swelling in my chest. "I never will. You're my family." In that moment, the distance between foster mom and foster son disappeared completely. We were just two people connected by love and trust, ready to face whatever came next. Because sometimes the family you choose is the family that saves you.